Hey guys, what's going on? This is Dan Solitro with another edition of Solitro Reviews Albums, and today we're going to be talking about the album This Is Coping by Casa Loma. So this was an album that actually came out a little earlier in June, and it was brought to my attention from Mikey, actually from To All the Crowded Rooms, and he turned me on to an album that is extremely well crafted, very well meticulated, and it's an album that many of you need to listen to, so let's go right into it. So for those of you who may be unfamiliar, Casa Loma is actually the side project of Nick Bruzy's, the bassist of Man Overboard. Back in April 2020, they actually released their single Lifeline, and while they were creating that, Nick was off doing his own thing and creating some of his most personal and most sonically rich work that he's ever produced in his career, in my opinion. And for him to hear him do that and hear what Man Overboard has put out, it really shows how versatile he is as not only a songwriter and a musician, but also as an engineer and as someone who really just does that. And what he did was absolutely fantastic. It also just seems like this is a part two, so to speak. What I mean by that is Man Overboard back in 2014 released a collection of songs in an EP called Passing Ends, which carried a lot of the same themes of tragedy that This Is Coping has. And with how This Is Coping has played out throughout the record, it just seems that this is a proper continuation, a part two almost, of what Passing Ends was. So for those of you who also may be unaware, this was recorded at Lumberyard Recordings in Hamilton, New Jersey. And the story about how Lumberyard came together was actually, it was a joint effort between both Nick Bruzy's and Ace Senders of the Early November. Back a while ago, they both had their own studios and they decided to team up, and from there we have Lumberyard Recordings. This is one of the most sonically rich acoustic albums I've heard in a very long time, and it shines all over throughout the entirety of the EP. And with this EP, he's really shown that he's kind of become a jack of all trades when it comes to recording, and that is not something that should be slept on in any way, shape, or form. Throughout this EP, he actually incorporates a lot of different instruments as well, a lot of piano, a lot of trumpet, a lot of violin, and with all that added instrumentation, it really shined in and showed how much Nick really genre bended throughout this entire EP. You hear a little bit of emo vibes, you hear a little bit of indie, you hear a little bit of Mumford and Sons and Billy Talent. It's an EP that is consistent all throughout, and a lot of those influences shine through in the songs. Even though this release is only 6 songs long, Nick has showed a cohesive start and finish with this release where every song just flows and connects together absolutely perfectly. So getting into the lyrical content and themes of this record, I've noticed 2 things. It shows a lot of personal growth, and it also shows a lot of tragedy, and it shows in a lot of really touching ways that can be relatable to a lot of listeners. Going back to Passing Ends back in 2014, so when his father died, around that time he used recording and writing the Passing Ends EP as a way to memorialize his father. Another theme that really stood out to me in this album is actually fatherhood, especially in the song Olivia, Marley, and the Duck Pond. If you haven't listened to this yet, the Duck Pond was an area that Nick grew up in, and it's also the area where he is currently raising his family now, and he ended up buying the house in that area that his father owned. And he also was kind of like looking for signs in that sense, thinking, okay, like this is a sign from my father, he's still watching over me. And I think that's something that a lot of us can relate to. We're always looking for a sign that our loved ones are watching over us, or they're always still here even though we physically can't see them. And what This Is Coping to me means is that this is an album that he is going to use to pass on to his children. That way, when eventually he would pass on, they would have that to remember him by, and they would have all the memories in that house and in that area that they can all remember him by as well. And that is a theme that really resonated with me when I heard that song. Another song that really stood out to me on this release is Travelers. It's actually, and it seems to me that it was actually written in perspective of Nick, of his children, after Nick had passed on. And a lot of the lyrical content seems to me that he wants his children to be still finding signs and just finding ways and knowing that their father is still there for them and with them, even though he may not physically be there. And for an artist to go that route and write from that perspective is really, really bold, and you don't really see that from a lot of artists these days, and I commend him for that. And it also shows how versatile he is as a songwriter, writing from that kind of perspective. And there you have it. This is Coping by Casa Loma. If you haven't listened to it yet, you can stream it on Spotify or Apple Music. Check out his merch store as well. He actually has a pressing that looks like a old English clock that looks really fantastic, and I would highly recommend it if you enjoyed what you listened to. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and also comment down below on what albums I should be reviewing next. Tell me if you like the album. Tell me what your thoughts and opinions are. I would love to hear from you. This is Dan Solitro signing out.